Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to the Reading Through the Bible series. Today we will be talking about Esther and I am so excited to get into this one. Growing up, Esther was definitely one of my favorite books in the Bible. And then also just all the different Bible studies and devotionals and camp programs that I've done around the book of Esther. Just over the years, I've grown a deeper appreciation for the book, for this character in the Bible. But just a reminder, these are notes that I took a year ago, but let's go ahead and dive on into it. So as always, I like to start with who the book was written by, and Esther was written by Mordecai. Now, rereading this note back already, I've already forgotten that the book of Esther was written by Mordecai, but I'm assuming year ago me is feeling the same way that I'm feeling today and just thinking, wow, that is so cool. I did not know Mordecai wrote this book of the Bible. Especially if you've ever read Esther or you know the story of Esther, you know that Mordecai is a very important character to the story, and his relationship to Esther is just so beautiful and unique. And the fact that he wrote this book of the Bible about her just adds such a, I don't know, like, not that all of these books of the Bible don't very obviously have personal touches throughout them, but the fact that Mordecai wrote this, I don't know why it gives me chills. It feels like such a personal touch to the book to me. But anyhow, jumping into my main takeaways from this book, I wrote that the king needs a queen and chose Esther. This happens chapters 1 through 2. I wrote that Haman, the king's right-hand man, has a plot against the Jews. This happens in chapter 3. Esther agrees to help the Jews. This happens chapters 4 through 5. The king honors Mordecai and has Haman show him off. This happens in chapter 6. Esther reveals plot and saves the Jews. This happens chapters 7 through 8. And finally, the book ends with Jews defeating their enemies and Mordecai becoming second in rank to the king. Now, just like my love for the book of Ruth, Esther is also a very small book, but these are the main takeaways that I took from the book. For my didn't know / didn't realize section, I have 2 takeaways. The first one, which I already touched on in this video, was that this book was written by Mordecai, and I wrote that it's a very important and influential person in Esther's life. So yeah, Sarah a year ago did not know that either. I know I already touched on it. I love that Mordecai was the one to write this book. I think that's so cool. And then the second one that I have for this section, I wrote that Haman's friends and wife warned him that since Mordecai is seen great in the king's eyes, that Haman would never overcome him. This happens in Esther 6, verse 13. And then finally, I wrote that my favorite verse comes from Esther 4, verses 3 through 5. And it says, "And in every province, wherever the king's command and his decree reached, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting and weeping and lamenting, and many of them lay in sackcloth and ashes. When Esther's young women and her eunuchs came and told her, the queen was deeply distressed. She sent garments to clothe Mordecai so that he might take off his sackcloth, but he would not accept them. Then Esther called for Hattek, one of the king's eunuchs, who had been appointed to attend her, and ordered him to go to Mordecai to learn what this was and why it was." Not going to lie, I just wanted to check that that was the verses that I wrote down. I think this is a very interesting portion of her story for me to choose as my favorite verses, but I think I'm going to assume that the main reason I chose this and just reading back is reminding me that just reading about Esther's mutual care for Mordecai and wanting to make sure that he would be clothed and just her overall concern for him and what was happening, I think is a big reason why I chose it. But I also think this is one of the first keys of us seeing Esther agreeing to help the Jews and finding out what is happening and just her overall interest in learning how to help. I think this is her really starting to step into her role of who God has placed her to be in this position, this time frame of what was happening. Yeah, her story is just such a great one to read about. And like I said, it is a very short book of the Bible. So if you have any interest in reading it, I definitely recommend. I mean, what a beautiful story, truly, of just a woman stepping into her faith and trusting that God has the ultimate plan and trusting that God will use her, even though she didn't even know how she was going to be used necessarily. And then not only through her actions were God's people able to be saved, but also her loved ones. Mordecai was able to be brought into a new place of power as well, which I'm sure she never foresaw happening, honestly, when she was in the thick of everything happening. But through her faith and through her trust with God, God's ultimate plan and timing fell into place. So yeah, just like Ruth, Esther has such a soft spot in my heart. I've always loved this book of the Bible. But anyhow, those are all of my thoughts that I have written down for Ruth. As always, if you have any interest in seeing my thoughts for other books of the Bible, I do have a playlist for all of them and it will be linked below. And as always, I hope you guys are having a good day. And if you're not, that's okay too. I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!